Midnight leans against the windows while the city keeps humming. An offer waits in your inbox, glossy and urgent, promising shortcuts like wings. You read it twice, feel the tug, and close the laptop on purpose. The click is small, and it sounds like you choosing a direction. You let the night stay night. You let future keep breathing. A rushed yes spends a future you haven't priced. Someone else's countdown tries to live inside your chest. You return it to the screen where it belongs. Delay, as we'll use the word, is not hiding. It is selection. You are waiting to gather leverage, not excuses. You are buying context, not comfort. You are letting time angle the light so the seams of the offer show. Think of Hill holding a lantern at the mouth of the week. Definite aim first. Name the result. You want in one line, so temptation has something honest to answer to. Then specialized knowledge. What facts, costs, or skills change this decision from theater to build? Finally, patient compounding. Small moves repeated until they grow teeth. The night is long enough for aim, for learning, for one tiny brick. Tomorrow can handle the announcement. The tension is simple and human. Applause now feels like safety. Options later are safety. The inbox pushes for glow. Your craft asks for ground. You can take the meeting and keep your leverage, but only if you set the terms from a rested chair. Strategic delay is not avoidance. It is design. So you close the lid, set a note for morning, rinse the cup, and keep the shape of your sleep. Your pulse slows to a pace you can steer. The city hums without needing you to hum back. There's one sentence that cools a room addicted to speed. Later. There's a clock some people fear, and a clock some people serve. I'm asking you to use a third one, the clock you keep. Strategic delay builds, procrastination bleeds. One gathers wood before winter, the other keeps making lists while the room gets colder. Delay that builds buys clarity, partners, and proof. Delay that bleeds rents anxiety by the hour and pays interest in regret. They can look alike at midnight. The difference shows in the morning. You've seen the cost of hurry. A team rushed. A launch to catch a headline, trimmed testing, smiled for the cameras and flipped the switch. For a week the numbers jumped. For a month the trust fell. Support flooded, refunds multiplied, and the customers they wanted to impress turned cautious. It took a year to claw back what a single evening of worship to the clock destroyed. They were fast, not accurate. The applause was loud. The silence after was louder. Use 3 checks before you move: pace, proof, and price. Pace asks whether you're matching their heartbeat or your craft. Proof asks for one concrete signal the outcome will hold: a pilot, a bug count, a paying customer, a signed page. Price asks what this action will cost in hours, focus, and future options, and whether you can afford that cost while staying kind to tomorrow's you. If you can answer all 3 with steadiness, act. If not, buy a breath. Your slowness is craftsmanship, not fear. Good hands measure twice so they can cut once without flinching. You are not falling behind, you are refusing to sprint toward a cliff. Let time serve the build, not the theater. Close the tab. Walk once around the block. Return with pencil, not panic. Hill had a quiet ledger that turns time into capital. Next, he watched strivers the way gardeners watch seasons, listening for what returned after the storms. He wasn't a prophet. He was a listener with a notebook, collecting the patterns of persistence and aim. Over years, the stories blurred into a simple lantern. People who knew where they were going, learned what their route demanded, and walked with others who strengthened the stride, kept arriving. Fortune noticed, but purpose drove. Here are the principles without perfume. Definite purpose. Name the result in one plain sentence short enough to fit in your pocket. Focused learning. Choose the few skills or facts that move that result and study them until they become muscle. Aligned alliances. Gather 2 or 3, people whose goals gain when yours does and make honest, visible trades. No slogans, just agreements that protect the build. A small scene. You stand at a junction of bright invitations, a panel that flatters, a partnership that complicates, a side project with glittering promises. Your aim is a product that works cleanly and funds your life. So you choose one stream, ship the next useful slice this month. You say no to the 3 shiny detours and yes to a boring schedule that prints momentum. The map grows less glamorous and more real. Tomorrow, the smallest proof arrives, and calm. Direction beats velocity when the road is long. Fast is brittle without a compass. Steady is fast once the turns repeat. Purpose lets ordinary days compound into something sturdy enough to hold you and generous enough to hire your friends. It keeps applause in the balcony while outcomes take the stage. We'll keep it gentle. Instead of reaching for everything, we'll price the few steps that matter and take them with a quiet backbeat. A 2-minute ritual will make waiting feel like progress. Picture a simple lens on a quiet afternoon, a circle of glass held between thumb and forefinger. Sunlight spills everywhere until you tilt the lens and narrow the beam. The light gathers, sharpens, touches a single point, and a brown leaf smokes into flame. Power wasn't missing. It was unfocused. Patience isn't delay for its own sake. It's the time required for alignment. A minute taken here saves hours later because the energy lands where it matters and stays long enough to change something real. Most of what people notice is visible effort, late messages, long meetings, dramatic sprints. They clap for activity because activity is noisy. Meanwhile, invisible assets accumulate quietly. A reputation for clean promises, a trail of proof that ships, a cash buffer that lets you say no, a calendar with defended mornings. These don't trend, they compound. Each careful yes preserves attention. Each published result buys autonomy. Each buffer day reduces your price for panic. Respect grows like interest when you choose tempo and standard instead of spectacle. Choose a standard you can keep in all weather. Done means tested. Plan means dated. Help means ownership. Choose a tempo that fits the work. Daily bricks, weekly doors, monthly rooms. People learn your rhythm and bring their best because you keep air in the room. They trust your no because your yeses arrive on time and carry weight without a parade. Let patience be physics. Small, precise moves, placed where force multiplies, create the kind of gravity that pulls good work toward you. You don't beg for trust. You bill it by delivery. One page, one improvement, one refusal to rush becomes a line of fire others can cook by. When the beam steadies, authority stops needing volume. We'll test this in a conversation soon. Watch who leans in. The invitation glittered like a station at dusk. Music, names, a promise that your work would finally be seen. You felt the pull and still chose the quiet platform where your build waited. You wrote a thank you, asked for a rain check, and turned back to the bench and the tools that don't clap. By midnight, the thing you are making had one more seam sealed, one less place to leak. In the morning you liked yourself, and the long game liked you back. Strategic waiting isn't drama. It is boundary and sequence. Use a simple protocol. Defer, define, deliver. Defer without apology. I'm not committing tonight. Define the shape and timing. If we revisit in 2 weeks, I'll bring X and ask Y. Then deliver one next proof on schedule, even if it is small. A tested slice, a paying user, a dated spec. You keep doors open by arriving with evidence, not explanation. Say not yet, and add the brick that earns the yes. The train you care about isn't the noisy one. It's the one headed toward the map you named. Fast favors feel like motion, but they spend rails. Irreversible assets extend track. Picture the montage. 10 quick introductions, 5 emergency brainstorms, 3 panels, 2 late check-ins. You glow for a weekend and owe sleep for a month. Now place beside it one asset that cannot unhappen, a release that holds under load, a process that removes a bottleneck. Standards stay visible when you repeat them in calm weather. No theatrics needed. Give a date, mark a checkpoint, show a slice. Let tempo stand in for volume. People will respect what you protect and adjust to the cadence that ships. You won't miss the train. You'll be building the tracks. The day begins with a buzz you don't remember turning on. Alerts layer like fog. Calendar nudges, comment threads. A red badge that feels like a small alarm in your pocket. You jog through shallow sprints, half answers, quick fixes. Another got it that you don't. Before each meeting, there's that thin sigh. The body's way of asking for a longer road than you keep giving it. You were hired for judgment, yet your attention keeps getting spent in coins too small to buy any. Even wins feel thin lately. Here's the lie of burnout, that more speed will rescue you from the speed that drained you. Urgency steals judgment first, then dignity, then the quiet joy of the craft. It turns days into urgency theater, motion, optics, applause, while the real result waits with its arms crossed. Think in 2 kinds of hours. Optics hours perform movement. Status pings, crowded calls, being seen deciding. Leverage hours move the outcome. Design that closes loops. Tests that harden truth. Writing that clarifies owners and deadlines. Instruments that reduce noise. You're not behind, you're refusing to be cheap. You are done exchanging your prime focus for the price of a ping. Patience isn't idling. It is the discipline that gives heavy problems the time that makes them light. When you slow enough to choose, authority returns like breath after a long underwater swim. Your calendar becomes a vote, not a plea. Your yes buys outcomes. Your no preserves the hours that make the next yes real. So we trade spectacle for sequence. We let mornings belong to work that cannot be faked, and afternoons host the theater, only when it serves the build. We stop sprinting to stay upright and start pacing to arrive whole and ready. Next, a 2-minute drill to turn waiting into work. After the meeting, the hallway is mostly empty, lights humming like bees behind frosted glass. You find a quiet bench near the stairwell and pull out a small notebook, the weight room you can carry. Noise still flickers in your chest, but the air here is simpler. 2 minutes will do. Start now. You sit, breathe once to the bottom and let the room stop moving while you don't. This is delay that builds. 3 moves light enough to repeat, heavy enough to matter. First, name the aim in 1 line you could say with your eyes closed. Not the applause, not the panic, the result that must exist a week from now. Second, pick the smallest irreversible rep, the one action that once taken makes backsliding harder. A dated decision note, a draft API contract, an email that appoints an owner and a date. Third, schedule it. Real calendar, real hour, nearest possible morning. If it compounds, it counts. You're lifting tiny weights for the parts of your life that hold the rest. No bravado, just form, clean, repeatable, honest. The notebook keeps a tally you can trust. 5 small reps stack into a door you can walk through. Failure turns into feedback because you took a step that cannot unhappen. The senses slow in this little corner. You hear the building settle, pipes ticking somewhere in the walls. Your pulse steps down to a pace you can steer. The nervous system learns the difference between delay and drift and begins to prefer the one that strengthens you. When you stand, the meeting you left feels smaller, and the path ahead feels graded, not guessed. Say not yet, then write the rep, book the hour, and let it start rolling interest while you sleep. Bring this drill into the conversation test. The ask arrives hot. Can you confirm now? The thread swells. Someone tags your name like an alarm. You feel the tug and choose the slower hand. You begin with the smallest mirror. I hear you want a yes tonight. No verdict, just fact. Then you offer a time frame. I'll give a clear answer by 9 tomorrow after I check the numbers and the impact on this week's deliverables. Finally, one proof. I'll also ship a one-page decision note with owners and dates. Your tone stays even like water in a bowl. The surface settles while the room still ripples. The room pauses to hear you. A few shoulders drop. Someone types sounds good, meaning the air's getting breathable. You've lent tempo without importing panic. Questions shift from heat to detail. What exactly needs checking? You ask, and a list appears where drama used to stand. You capture it, confirm what remains unknown, and end the thread with 9:10 a.m. decision plus note. You set the clock you keep, not the one that keeps you. This is patience that commands. You mirrored one fact, offered one time frame, committed to one proof. No grand speech, only sequence. While others perform urgency, you build an anchor others can tie to. They start matching your pace, because your pace produces something they can step on. This is how composure creates gravity. You stayed readable, made the next inch real, and left a promise you can keep. If pressure spikes again, you widen the frame the same way. Numbers before narratives, outcomes before optics, morning before midnight. You aren't refusing action. You're preparing it to count. People notice the relief of working with someone who protects attention like oxygen and publishes what they decide. Here's the sentence. Small enough for a wrist and strong enough for a storm. I'm going to pause here and respond when I can be clear about the outcome. It's brief, portable, and works at home and work. It names your pace without blaming, protects the standard without theatrics, and leaves oxygen where panic tries to live. Say it once and the room cools. Say it twice and people match your cadence. Picture a chaotic stand-up. Updates collide, side threads bloom. Someone waves a deadline no one can source and you feel tugged to perform speed. You use the line. The noise thins. Eyes lift from screens. You add one simple rail. Let's anchor on the metric we own. A number returns like north on a compass. Tasks reattach to outcomes. Owners speak in next steps instead of volume. 10 minutes later, the meeting ends early, and real work finally breathes. Authority is the quiet that survives pressure. The line doesn't seize control. It steadies it. Instead of arguing with heat, you lower the temperature and make space for facts. Standards can stand again. You make fewer promises you'll resent, and more decisions you can publish with a straight back. Hill's compass fits inside this move. Purpose sets pace. Pace preserves power. When you slow enough to be clear about the outcome, you guard the hours that actually move it. You turn attention into traction and leave a trail that compounds into trust. Repeat the line wherever rush begins to tilt the floor. Teach it to your team, your home, your own late-night self. Repetition turns posture into identity. Identity makes patience automatic. Keep it in your pocket, write it on a card, lend it to a friend in a loud hallway, and watch the room remember how to think. Wins arrive differently now. There are fewer automatic yeses, and your mornings open like clear windows. The assets that don't tweet compound quietly, a reputation for clean promises, A buffer of cash and goodwill, a calendar with defended mornings, drafts that turn into releases, then income. You feel less impressive and more capable. Work holds because you gave it time to set. The old inbox returns with a gleaming subject line. Same offer, same clock, steadier breath. You read, note the leverage it would borrow, and you choose timing instead of theater. 2 lines go back. Thanks, a date, 1 upcoming proof. You turn to the bench you've been building and lay another small stone where it strengthens the span. Nothing explodes. Everything moves. This is winning later. The quiet empire of decisions that age well. The map you drew with Hill's lantern grew into habits. The habits grew into trust. Trust keeps inviting the kind of work that fits your hands. People notice your pace and plan around it. They bring you problems because you return solutions that stand in daylight. You don't need a siren. You need a ledger and a chair. Take the gentle charge. Wait room before reply, before decision, before sleep. Use the 2 minutes to aim, to pick the smallest irreversible rep, to schedule it where mornings can protect it. Let patience compound into authority, and let authority remain silent until it must speak. The timeline is long, which is why you will arrive. Guard your pace. It will guard your power. The city hums, the screen still glows, and your hands know their tools. You keep choosing timing over brightness, standards over spectacle, outcomes over optics, and